Let's go talk about the return of the Texas and Texas A&M rivalry. This is a game that we have not had since 2011. And I have been very vocal. I'm a college football traditionalist. I enjoy what I grew up with. I enjoy having the Pac-12. I enjoy having our rivalries that we've had previously stay intact. All right? I love that. Realignment has sort of messed with that just a little bit. But wouldn't you know it, man? Realignment gives and realignment takes, and realignment is giving us this rivalry back with Texas heading to the SEC. And the thing that I love so much about this rivalry, it is college football to me in its purest form. Like, there is nothing corporate or propped up about the hate these two universities have for each other. Like, it is next door neighbor kind of hate. It is get off my lawn, keep your leaves on your side of the fence kind of hate. And it is petty. It is on social media in full effect, regardless of when they last played football, and I love everything about it. Now, there's a lot at stake in this one. I'll be honest here. For A&M, this could jumpstart the Mike Elko era, speaking just to the 2024 game, which will be played in College Station. Even if Texas A&M doesn't have the year they want to have, let's say they end up somewhere in that like 7-5 range, which would be, in my opinion, underachieving for them. I think they're too good for that. But let's just say they don't have the year they want to have. They have that record. But if they beat Texas, the last game of the season, where Texas is coming off of a college football playoff berth, it's their first year in the SEC. They got a quarterback who I believe has a chance to be a first-round player, or maybe will be a first-round player. Could be the top quarterback in college football this year. And a head coach who's got that thing humming. The absolute sales pitch you could make about A&M and the way you'd feel if you're an A&M fan going into the offseason is like, hey, wasn't the year we wanted. Mike Elko's getting his feet underneath him after year one, but you know what? We did beat Texas. We did beat that team out there in Austin on the 40 acres. That would be an absolute game changer, a perspective changer, an optics changer for them. Texas, preseason, it feels like they will I feel pretty strongly, if you gave me a number right now, I haven't checked in Vegas, but I believe that Texas will be favored to win this game if you were to give me a preseason line. The big carrot for Texas is all based, in my opinion, outside of bragging rights, is recruiting. Because how many times have we seen on a commitment broadcast or on National Signing Day, there's a couple hats on the table, but the early buzz is, or the buzz coming down to his decision is, it's Texas or it's Texas A&M. Kid wants to stay in the Lone Star State, wants to play for a big school. Is it A&M or is it Texas? And so if you're Texas and you can walk into a living room and tell a talented 4- or 5-star kind of player that's between you and the Aggies, hey, listen, it was our first year in the SEC. We beat them at their place. We just made the college football playoff last year. Arch Manning's playing quarterback for us next year. Mic drop, we'll see y'all in Austin. Like, that would be an incredible pitch to make. I think that would move the needle a lot for recruits that are on the fence between Texas and Texas A&M. There's a massive ripple effect here that I think could be in play. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but the more that I look at this rivalry and the more that I look at the way this rivalry could trend, with the timing of this game being the last week of the season and the last game of the season, I think has a little bit more of oomph to it when you evaluate your season in review, because it's the last one you saw outside of a bowl game or a playoff appearance. They're both massive brands in the state. They're both in the SEC now, and they both have high expectations year in and year out. Like, just because A&M hasn't competed at the level they expect to over the course of the last few years doesn't mean those folks in College Station are saying, oh, okay, well, I guess 8 wins is going to be good enough for us here year in and year out. No, if that was the case, Jimbo Fisher would still be the head coach there. If that was the case, they wouldn't give what they give to from an NIL standpoint over there in College Station. If that was the case, they would not have the resources accessible to Mike Elko. So they're expecting to compete at a high level. And I've said this many times, people sort of get a little bit tripped up talking about A&M and their expectations, and they're like, oh, well, they haven't really won anything. I mean, have they ever really been a national power in college football? Why do they expect to be this team that competes for SEC championships and be in the college football playoff? Because of what they put into it, because of what I just said. The resources, the care factor, the facilities, all that. They do a tremendous amount with the input. And when you have the input right in college football, based on what other teams have done throughout the course of this game, throughout the course of this sport, you expect a certain output. So Texas A&M, the input is there. So they expect an output. Texas, it's the same deal. How long have we talked about the standards they have for themselves? How massive that brand is out there in Austin. There's been many a year now leading up to these past couple of seasons for Steve Sarkisian where it was like, all right, this is the year. All right, this is the year. All right, this is the year. And really for the same reason I just said about A&M, they've expected it at Texas. The resources, fertile recruiting ground, the input at Texas is also massive as well. And so I say all that because when your expectations are as high as they are and you have this rivalry game being played the last week of the regular season, I think that the head coaching job, both at A&M and at Texas, is going to have a similar prerequisite list that a Michigan-Ohio State head coach would have. And that's not me saying that you got to win the national championship or you're fired the next year. I'm not saying that necessarily. But I do think that at both Michigan and Ohio State, the standard is, the non-negotiable is, you got to beat that other team. You got to beat our rival. Doesn't matter if you win 11-1. If you go 11-1, or excuse me, it doesn't matter if you go 11-1 and you win the Big Ten. If you lost to Michigan, you lost to Ohio State, like we got to have a conversation. We got to figure this out. That matters to us. I think for Texas and Texas A&M, the care factor for both those schools and the brands being so massive, and again, the timing of this game, the next-door neighbor kind of hate, I think as we evolve in this rivalry over the course of the next few years, that is going to be a standard and a box that you have to check as a head coach at A&M and at Texas. I'm not saying either one's on the hot seat if they don't get it done this year, but I do think if you start to pile up a few in a row where that other school is beating you, people are going to have an issue with that. And that's why we love college football, man. It's unreasonable. It's very much so a heart-driven sport. But the fact that we got this game back, A&M in their war hymn has a line that says, "Varsity's horns sawed off." And they weren't playing this game. Glad we fixed it. Realignment. Nice little alley-oop. We appreciate y'all for that. Roll, party, roll. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.